Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I am Jess Carson, Research Assistant Professor at the Carsey School of Public Policy at UNH. I'm going to talk a little bit today about a new publication on innovations in food access during the COVID-19 pandemic. So thanks for joining. This work is a little different from some of our usual research briefs in that this is a really summary piece and not a distinctly analytic piece. So the inspiration for this work has been some of the efforts that we've undertaken with some philanthropic partners, really working to better identify some innovative ways that communities and nonprofits have responded amid the pandemic. And of course, being at a policy school, it also means keeping abreast of new policy developments. So together, we have grown this kind of cache of insight around how communities and nonprofits are adapting, how the government is adapting to the pandemic. And we've really built up this set of knowledge around food access in particular. So we thought that sharing that in this form might be useful to a broader audience. So that was sort of the inspiration for this work. Some of the main takeaways of this work, even though they span all the way from the federal government all the way down to local communities or regular people helping their neighbors, there's a common couple of threads through them that I'll talk a little bit about. So first, the main thread is that there's a lot of innovative effort around making sure that people stay fed. Second, doing so in a way that really supports social distancing needs right now. And third, that pays particular attention to the needs of populations that are more vulnerable. So that includes those who are financially vulnerable, but also in particular older adults who may have some special health concerns that really matter in particular during the pandemic. Like I said, there's a lot of work happening at different levels of the food system. So that comes from the top new administrative flexibilities from the federal government in terms of how to implement federal nutrition programs, all the way down to these kind of grassroots local community efforts. And I'll give a couple of examples of what those look like. In terms of the federal government, some of the most relevant efforts that they have undertaken is really around the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, and some of the administrative flexibilities that have been put into place for states to be able to administer their own SNAP or food stamps programs in a way that makes sense for their own state. So one thing that the federal government has done has allowed states to apply for a waiver on how they're going to administer their program. One such waiver includes allowing states to provide SNAP recipients with emergency allotments of benefits that are equal to the maximum for their household size. So for some households, this means this extra injection of food spending resources that they now have at their disposal to help make ends meet at this time. But there are other administrative flexibilities that are really valuable right now, too, in terms of SNAP. And many states have applied to be able to change the frequency with which folks have to recertify their eligibility or fill out their paperwork and how that's done, whether they have to sign papers in person or whether signatures by telephone count in some cases. So really thinking about how to get folks connected with SNAP, keep folks connected with SNAP, and to do so in a way that really reduces the exposure between clients and case workers, which is really a safety issue all around. In terms of some of the more community level efforts, a lot of those have been bunched around school meal delivery and also food pantries. So again, another federal flexibility around school meals has been that in this particular situation, school meals now don't have to be served in a group setting. So school districts are able to respond in ways that work best for their own communities, like, for instance, dropping off meals at students' bus stops or providing several days worth of meals packed into bags or boxes at a single pickup. So sort of grab and go models, and doing several days worth ensures that folks don't have to repeatedly come to the site, repeatedly be exposed to folks who are working or other folks who are attending those kinds of sites. So again, trying to really emphasize that social distancing piece while remaining of folks' needs to get that regular influx of food. In terms of food pantries, they've really been at the front line for a lot of communities in ensuring people have what they need to eat. And one of the most popular food pantry models right now seems to be the drive-through model, where households are able to sort of take their car, pull in, get a pre-packed box or bag placed directly in their trunk, and then to drive right off without having to go in or fill out paperwork or make selections themselves. It really reduces the need for folks to come into contact with others, but still ensures that they get the resources that they need. And another kind of food pantry model that is particularly important is the mobile pantry model, which ensures that folks who maybe don't have access to their own car or for whom traveling can be difficult now more than ever, that those folks have easier access to food pantry goods. And those efforts often look like packing a big truck or a box truck or something with boxes or bags of food, parking it someplace that a food pantry isn't usually located, and then letting folks come and grab the food that they need in that setting instead of coming to an actual food pantry designated site. All of these kinds of efforts, I think, are important to a policy audience for a couple of reasons, particularly that we still have these immediate needs around food access, but also the set of very longer term needs. So, at the immediate kind of short term level, federal policymakers can think about how to support increases in SNAP allocations, which really can go really far in helping families make ends meet and can also act as a bit of an economic stimulus as well. And also more funding for supporting emergency food programs, because the food pantries and the food banks are seeing this really unprecedented demand. So emergency food funding through federal channels can be particularly important now. At the state level, encouraging folks to leverage all the flexibilities that are available, all those waiver options that make it easier, again, for folks to get connected and stay connected with programs that they're eligible for, I think is a really important avenue now too. And then thinking about kind of the longer term, there's been a lot of really great work happening, but there is a bit of a sense that a lot of these have been almost band-aid solutions addressing these immediate emergency needs in the wake of this public health crisis. But as the weeks and months in some cases are wearing on, we have to really start thinking about the fact that for many people, for many communities, food insecurity isn't going to be an acute issue. It's going to be a chronic, it's going to be a long-term issue, as is perhaps the need for physical distancing. So really thinking about how do we connect people with the food that they need over the long term. And as the economic effects of the pandemic continue to wear on, how do we get people quickly connected and keep them connected amid their lost jobs or lost savings with the programs that really matter to support them? Thinking about the funding for these efforts that have sprung into play really quickly, particularly around food banks and food pantries. How do we ensure that those places are supported, funded, supplied, if demand continues at these really high, unprecedented levels? And then even more broadly than this paper explores, really thinking too about the sustainability of our food systems, those pipelines from growers to distributors to food sellers. Really, how do we ensure that those folks are adequately staffed, safe, able to carry out their duties so that food can continue to remain accessible for not only for folks who are in particular need, but really more broadly. So all of those sorts of short and long-term issues, I think, are still at play. That about summarizes the work from this week. Thanks very much for tuning in today. As always, you can locate this publication along with all of our others at carsey.unh.edu/publications. And if folks have questions or comments, I'm always happy to hear. So please reach out. Thanks very much.